You know, keep an eye, keep a close eye, keep close tabs on what your children are doing. Otherwise, they might do a Carly Gregg on you. You know, I mean, the fact that mom wanted to take her vape pens is not abuse. It's just common sense. First degree murder is premeditated murder. You can see her walking through the home the way she does, the deliberation that she has, the premeditation. She's going into that room with a notion that she's going to kill this person, her mother. And that's the premeditation. That's why it's first degree.
I was just going to say, how could you murder someone with 2 Labradors right next to you?
Well, they don't talk. Concealing the firearm. You see her concealing the firearm? It's behind her back. She knows the camera's there. Why she didn't drape something over the camera is beyond me. So this is her home. See her peering around the corner to see where mom is, and see she's got her hands behind her back? That's called deliberation. She's being very deliberate in her actions and trying to conceal the firearm. Carly Gregg is a 15-year-old girl. She can't vote. She can't drive. She can't do a lot of things because why? Because she's underage. She's underage. So, and I guarantee you her brain's not developed. So the question is, do we put somebody like this in prison for the rest of their life? I don't know.
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, how many people get a very own board-certified criminal defense lawyer? How many people? Not many. So you people are extremely lucky. You know who you are. We are gathered here today with our content genius, Michael Rivers. Say hello, Michael.
Hello, everybody, and I would like to remind you that the sweatshirts are in, the hoodies are in, with the amazing design by Tony. So clrbrucerivers.com right now. You go there, and back to you, Bruce.
Okay. So today we're acting to Carly Gregg, and it raises an issue. 15-year-olds, should they get life in prison? Now, Carly Gregg was having a bad day, a really fucking bad day. Carly Gregg was a Mississippi teenager who woke up one morning and decided to end her mother and father's life. Wow, that would be a bad day. She may spend the rest of her, or she's going to spend the rest of her life in prison. She just had a jury trial, was found guilty. And so here's what she did. So in their home, hang on. Before we get to that, almost forgot, our most important sponsor is eforms.com. eforms.com is a very effective way to get any kind of legal form that you need for whatever purpose you need it for. Medical power of attorney. You know, if you want your wishes known, so you're not kept on a machine for the rest of your days, or, you know, like my grandma says, look, if I overdose downstairs, I don't want to be kept alive. Okay, so you sign a medical power of attorney, or, you know, if I'm selling her crotch rocket, grandma on the crotch rocket, you've seen her before, you get a bill of sale. Any kind of legal need that you have is going to require a form. So where would you go? eforms.com, because if you have it in writing, you're going to win in court. So you avoid a high cost of a lawyer and protect yourself down the road. So go to eforms.com for any kind of legal form that you might need. Carly Gregg is a 15-year-old girl. She can't vote. She can't drive. She can't do a lot of things because why? Because she's underage. She's underage. So, and I guarantee you her brain's not developed. So the question is, do we put somebody like this in prison for the rest of their life? I don't know. So here's what she did. I think she got caught smoking weed, and she decided to end her mother's life. Inside the home, there was surveillance cameras. Okay? And let's watch this video. And the actual crime is not on camera, thank God. But it left their lawyers little or no choice as to what to do here, because it's clear that she's the one responsible. So what do you do with somebody like that? They tried a mental health defense. So this is her home. See her peering around the corner to see where mom is, and see she's got her hands behind her back? That's called deliberation. She's being very deliberate in her actions and trying to conceal the firearm. Now, you don't expect your child is going to do this. So one of the things that happens with victims of crimes is they're usually caught off guard. And they're caught off guard, especially in this scenario. Mom's probably in her bedroom or somewhere. And here she is getting ready or doing whatever she's doing. You wouldn't expect that your child is going to come out of nowhere. So I'll just let the whole thing play. It's only a minute. 1 shot, 2 shots, 3 shots. Mom's dead at this point. Concealing the firearm. You see her concealing the firearm? It's behind her back. She knows the camera's there. Why she didn't drape something over the camera is beyond me. So then she texts her father. Says, "When are you coming home, honey?"
I was just gonna say, how could you murder someone with 2 Labradors right next to you?
Well, they don't talk. See how cold she is? She's not in any distress whatsoever. Now, they had a trial on this, and she was found guilty. And her lawyers tried a mental health defense. In other words, sometimes you feel like a nut, sometimes you don't. It's called the Almond Joy defense. And so she texts her dad, "When will you be home, honey?" My guess is that came from the mom's phone, because that does not sound like, a child wouldn't call their father honey, I don't think. So trying to lure him home. The shootings came hours after the friend tipped Gregg's parents off about the marijuana usage. By the time she arrived home from school, her mother had discovered Carly's stash of vape pens. Teenagers think about things so much differently than you and I do, if you're an adult. Everything is so amplified in terms of their importance, right? And this just kills me, because her stepfather, Heath, testified on her behalf, describing her as a sweet little girl who wasn't herself that day. So she lures Dad home, and she shoots Dad in the fucking shoulder. She shoots her stepfather in the shoulder, doesn't kill him, and he managed to escape. "I do not believe she even recognized me," he testified. He said she just wasn't herself that day. No, she was a stone cold, bloody killer that day. So she was found guilty, and this is what happened in court.
You can sit right there, ma'am. Ma'am, I see you're holding some papers. The jury been able to reach a verdict in any of these counts.
When you are waiting for a verdict as a defense, even as a defense, or actually as anybody, this is one of the most nerve-wracking times that there is. But there's no question what the verdict is.
All right, if you would please hand the paper to the bailiff. Ms. Gregg, please rise and come to the podium. along with your attorneys.
She's 15 years old. 15-year-old's a juvenile. So how is it that she's in adult court? First of all, as a juvenile, you're not entitled to a jury trial. But as an adult, you would be. So one of the things they would do is they would certify her as an adult. So that's a whole certification process that you go through. You have experts on either side, and on a case like this, it's almost presumed that she would be certified.
All right, the verdicts appear to be improper.
So they certify her as an adult. Once they certify somebody as an adult, then you're facing adult consequences. When you face adult consequences, then all of a sudden your constitutional rights kick in. Right to a jury trial, right to cross-examine, right to confrontation, all the different constitutional rights that come with adult consequences.
All right, the verdicts appear to perform. Verdict of the jury is count 1. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of first-degree murder as charged in the indictment. Count 2. We, the jury.
Murder is premeditated murder. You can see her walking through the home the way she does, the deliberation that she has, the premeditation. She's going into that room with a notion that she's going to kill this person, her mother, and that's the premeditation. That's why it's first degree.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of attempted murder as charged in the indictment. Count 3. We, the jury, find the defendant, Carly Madison Gregg, guilty of tampering with evidence as charged in the indictment. Please be seated, Ms. Gregg. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury is custom for the court to poll.
So now we're not going to play the rest of this. I mean, the judge polls the jury and asks each one of the jurors if that's their verdict. And that's pretty common. In this case, so now she's been found guilty of premeditated first-degree murder. It's gonna fucking happen. And, you know, I mean, it's on video where you were and what you were doing. The problem that I have with a life sentence, or especially a death sentence for a teenager, is, you know, they're just not themselves. You know, a teenager is not fully developed, you know, and the appreciation of your consequences for tomorrow aren't there. You don't have the same thought process with a teenager that you do with, say, a 50-year-old, you know, white male, you know, with an adult. So now we have to look at the sentencing phase. And in this case, it comes from the jury. And they recommend life in prison without the possibility of parole. Not sure that I completely agree with that, but here's the sentencing phase where they actually sentence the defendant. She's a little more composed.
Will be as follows. As to count 1, the jury having fixed the verdict at life imprisonment, this court will sentence you to life imprisonment. As to count 2, you'll be sentenced to life imprisonment. As to count 3, you'll be sentenced to 10 years to serve. You'll be required to pay court cost fees and assessments in the amount of $431.50. Ms. Gregg, regarding any appeal of your judgment of conviction and order of sentence and in accordance with Wright v. State 577, Southern 2nd 387, the court wants to inform you that pursuant to Rule 4E of the Mississippi Rules of Appellate Procedure, the notice of appeal required by Rule 3 of such rules shall be filed with the circuit clerk within 30 days after the date of the denial of any motion for a new trial, or the date of imposition of sentence, whichever is later. Pursuant to Rule 4E, if you make a timely motion under the Mississippi Rules of Criminal Procedure for a judgment of acquittal notwithstanding the verdict of the jury or for a new trial under Rule 25.1, the time for appeal shall run from the entry of the order denying such motion. Finally, Rule 25.1 subsection C provides that a motion for a new trial must be made within 10 days of entry of the judgment, which includes both adjudication of guilt and sentence. Should you make a decision on the record to appeal, that decision will stand unless a written statement to the contrary signed by you and your attorney is filed with the court. Should you make a decision to waive appeal, that decision will stand unless you give written notice to the court and your attorney prior to expiration of the time in which you perfect an appeal. Should no decision to appeal be made by you, your failure to express a desire to appeal shall be considered a waiver of your right to appeal, and that waiver will stand unless you give written notice to the court and to your attorney prior.
So he did say life imprisonment, which I don't know if that means It probably means life imprisonment with the possibility of parole probably after 30 years. That is my guess what the sentence would be. He didn't say life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, but it still means that she's on lifetime supervision. So even though you might get parole after 30 years, which means she'd be 45 years old, still very young, still have a chance to have a life, she's still going to be on parole for the rest of her life, regardless. She won't be free to move around. She won't be free to move out of state. She won't be free to do anything. But I have an issue a little bit with somebody this young, certainly with the death penalty. We've outlawed that for minors. But do we want to put somebody in prison for the rest of her life? She's clearly a cold-hearted beast of a killer. There's no question in my mind about that. Can anybody argue with that?
I'd say this is a lot different than the Gypsy Rose situation where she had that with Munchausen syndrome where her mother was making her pretend to be sick and she had to kind of escape to kill her mom. It's kind of a different case than
right.
that.
In that case, Gypsy, but what did her boyfriend get?
Oh, life.
He got life and she got 8 years.
Yeah.
And that's...
Oh, they're divorced, by the way.
Well, that was her... No, she divorced the fat guy that she was...
Yeah, the new...
Yeah. Anyway, that's all. We did an episode on that, and that's... But that raises a good point. That's a mitigating factor when you're a victim and all of a sudden you take out your abuser. I don't think we have that in this case. If there certainly would have been some testimony about the abuse she suffered. The fact that mom wanted to take her vape pens is not abuse. It's just common sense.
All right, so this is Dave Chappelle. How old is 15 really? He compares... It's actually really kind of digs in philosophically to that question. How old is 15 really?
So to kind of highlight what we're talking about here, how old is 15 really? This community activist who is one of the most brilliant minds ever to speak on the subject. Let's hear what he has to say.
Even peed on this girl or not, you're not asking yourself the real question that America needs to decide once and for all. And that question is, how old is 15 really?
How old is 15 really?
I'm not saying that a person is as smart as they're going to be at 15. That's not what I'm saying, man. But I am saying 15 to me is old enough to decide whether or not you want to be pissed on. That's me. I've been 15. When I was 15, I was doing stand-up in nightclubs. I smoked reefer from time to time. Friends were selling crack. I was trying to finger fuck people. I knew what was happening around. Anytime 15 comes up, people freak out. Like when that girl, Elizabeth Smart, got kidnapped. Right? Remember in Utah last year, 15-year-old girl Elizabeth Smart was kidnapped, and then they finally found her, and the whole country was relieved. And I was the only one saying, damn, she wasn't that smart after all. Not because she got kidnapped. That could happen to anybody. I'm not knocking her for that. I'm just saying, if you kidnapped me when I was 15, you got to take me further than 8 miles away from my house, man. God damn. You can't hold me prisoner around shit I recognize. I'll break away. I'll break away. Fuck off me, nigga. That's my bus stop. I know where I'm at. I'm going home. And while she was missing, during this half a year that this girl is missing, there's a 7-year-old black girl gets kidnapped in Philadelphia. Nobody knows her name. They might have talked about her 2 or 3 times on the news, but she should have been the top story because she chewed through the ropes and had both of these motherfuckers in jail in 45 minutes flat. 7 years old, kidnapped at 4 o'clock and at home watching herself on the news at 5:30. That shit is crazy. That's a news story. That is a news story. Now, on the flip side, here comes 15 again. Now we talking about a 15-year-old black kid in Florida. This black kid accidentally killed his neighbor when he's practicing wrestling moves that he saw on TV. Now, was he a kid? No. They gave him life. They always try our 15-year-olds as adults. The Snicker knew what he was doing. So
it begs the question, how old is 15 really? You don't really know about consequences. You can't appreciate life. You can't appreciate anything, really. Yeah, and things that are catastrophic to you as an adult are water off a duck's back. So it just, we found it unconstitutional to take a life, for the government to take your life when you're 15. In other words, no death penalty for, people who were minors. But we don't mind taking somebody's life when they're 15, in prison for the rest of their life. For the rest of their life. Now, I am not saying this is a nice, sweet little girl like her stepdad did as he was being shot in the shoulder. She lured him home to kill him. And what was her plan after that? I had a client who all he did was smoke weed. And he was selling shit until he almost had nothing left. And he was living in an apartment, and he didn't know what to do without any money. But he knew he was on his parents' life insurance. So he killed his mother and attempted to kill his father. His father jumped out the window, and he was going to take the proceeds from that and open a hashish shop in Amsterdam. Moron, your bus is leaving. I mean, and he thought that was a good plan. That's ridiculous. I think this video is so chilling, and it's, I don't know if it's our guns, if it's our culture, if it's our immediate gratification culture. Kids today want everything and they don't want to work for it. Don't I sound like an old white dude when I say that? But it's fucking true. This little girl wanted her vape pens and no one was going to stand in the way of that. But guess what? That firearm, that firearm that was sitting there should have been locked. It should have been locked in a case with a trigger lock on it. But somehow she had access to it. And as a result, guess what? She kills mom and tries to kill stepdad. A totally preventable scenario here. And if you have 15-year-olds, don't fucking trust them. Sorry. Even if they get straight A's, there might be stuff going on inside their brain that you have no clue about whatsoever. And I guarantee you that's probably the case. When I was a kid, I had so much turmoil going on inside me. My dad was a prick and beat me and all that kind of stuff. And I was basically alone at 15. My mom was a lovely woman, but couldn't really protect me. And, there's just kids and everything gets amplified when you're a teenager. So don't trust your teenager. I hate to say that. Use the old Ronald Reagan thing, that he said about Russia. Trust but verify. Keep an eye, keep a close eye, keep close tabs on what your children are doing. Otherwise, they might do a Carly Gregg on you. You don't want that happening.
I remember I was going to talk about that. The kid that axe murdered the adoptee that axe murdered his stepmom. I mean, yeah, what was his plan after that?
They don't have a plan. It's because they don't know consequences. They don't see tomorrow. They don't see, if I do this, then this will happen. They just have their here and now, and that's why I liken it to, you have a baby. They have the permanency effect. You show an object to a baby and then you take it away. The baby doesn't realize that object still exists. Yeah. Teenagers are the same way. They don't have any permanency to really fall back on. They can't see, if I do this, there are going to be permanent consequences tomorrow. Right? You'd agree with that, wouldn't you? Yeah. I mean, that just is, that's what happens. And because of that, they make really fucking dumb decisions. So let me tell you something. If you're a teenager out there watching this, guess what you need to do? Build a little bit every day. Build and try, before you act, think long and hard about what's going to happen tomorrow if I do this today.
What is the one quote you kept telling me after a certain event happened in our life?
What?
It's about solutions, temporary and permanent.
What you do tomorrow can create permanent problems for a temporary issue today. And that is the truth. That's a good point, Michael. So, and talk to your teen until they're blue in the fucking face. Make them talk to you. Be nice to them. Take them out and do stuff with them. Be engaged. Do not buy them fucking firearms. Don't buy your kid a gun. If you're a hunter, fine. Make sure they take the training that's necessary and lock those motherfuckers up and make sure that your kid doesn't have any access to it. So we'll see you next time here at Criminal Lawyer Reacts. This has been our preachy episode about being a parent, about being a teen, and trying to avoid a Carly Gregg if you can possibly avoid it. So make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, go to CLR Bruce Rivers, get some merch. Come on, we need some more representation out there.
CLRBruceRivers.com.
And make sure you subscribe. We're on almost to 1.3 million. And make sure you sign up for Patreon. Go to Facebook. Give us all the kind of views. We love you guys. See you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058.